there's no patent for marijuana, right? It's a plant, it's already out there. The same way that Big Pharma probably won't profit off if MDMA or LSD becomes legal for drug-assisted psychotherapy because the patent's already there. So they can't really make money out of it in the same way that they, create Vicodin and these other drugs. Hey, welcome to the internet. My name's Nilo Tabrizy, and I'm a journalist here at Vice News. And I made a documentary about legal weed and kind of who's cashing in and who are the big players. So I'm here to answer some of your questions.
Hey, Nilo. Thanks for coming on the show today. We've got a bunch of people who want to talk to you. People on the internet are sending us some great tweets. We'll be watching for that while we're live. And hopefully answering people's questions. So you ready to talk to your first person?
Let's do it. It'll be great.
Yeah, either way. Here's Jake, who's calling us on Skype.
Hey, Nilo, thanks for having me.
Hey, Jake, how's it going?
Really well. So the issues that you brought up, banking, tax issues, rescheduling, it seems like the marijuana industry has yet to gain any traction on a federal level with this, despite their lobbying efforts. Is there any sense from the industry of when this might tip, or who necessarily is working against this?
So it's kind of, I guess my impression is that it's less a single senator or House rep that's working against this, but it's more just kind of the policy priorities of what's going on in Congress. So until making, access to banking, easier for marijuana businesses, or rescheduling marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2, which will make it a lot easier as well, nothing is going to change. So it really needs to get that traction in Congress overall, or everything is going to continue to be somewhat terrible.
Right. So in your report, you talked with Andy Williams, a Medicine Man, and he kind of talks about always having another branch to reach onto in terms of banks, because inevitably they're going to get booted out. What are kind of some of the creative workarounds that businesses are using for 280E? Because tax code is a lot harder to circumvent.
Right, no, absolutely. 280E is very complicated. It's a little boring, but it is a very important part of what's going on here. So just to give a little bit of background, 280E bars any marijuana business from being able to write off their, what they buy for their business. So if they buy these super expensive lights for their grows, they can't write that off. So they end up eating a lot of those costs. They don't get to do the same kind of business write-offs that normal businesses do. So really, I just talking to people, the only way that seems that people are getting around it is being able to make their brand very attractive to draw in a lot of capital so they can circumvent those costs. That is really challenging, so it's really difficult to get around that.
Right. Kind of touching on the Marijuana Investors Summit, which was a lot of fun this year. It was really impressive. They bring in, experts from Shark Tank, for example. But then you kind of have Ed Rosenthal, which is almost a cult hero kind of in marijuana circles, giving a presentation that, frankly, I didn't feel like moved investors at all. We're going to see these kind of old school marijuana people without any real stake in the market that they fought to create.
Yeah, I mean, again, what we saw at the Marijuana Investor Summits was just suits. You didn't really see people there who had been growing for years. So yeah, the market is really, it's really buttoning up, again, because it is really capital intensive. There's certain barriers in the way that create a space where you have to have a lot of money to get the license to follow all these state rules. So yeah, that's what we saw is really the traditional, mom and pops that you think of weren't in the same space as the marijuana investors.
Interesting. I know that there are investments being made right now. You have ArcView, Weed Maps, High Times announced their big fund. Are there any early success stories that these, investors are pointing to and saying, here are people that, have received a little bit of capital and this is what they've done with it? And if so, what sectors are those in? Yeah,
so, what we saw that is any business that's directly touching the plant, so actually growing it and things like that, that's more risky. So you have, investors might not necessarily want to be near that. But a big thing that's really happening is the actual technologies. So any kinds of lights or anything else that say, if something, out of the norm happens and marijuana is completely, kicked off the table and it's not going to be a viable business, those technologies can be applied to agriculture and other things like that. So that's something that we've been, seeing kicking off. A lot of people are investing in that.
Okay. And Andy Williams also talked about how he wouldn't want to get involved in legal cannabis in Colorado, and not as a kind of protectionist thing, but just he feels like there are other markets that have more potential. What are those markets right now?
So it's the markets that are coming online. So you see, even Andy Williams of Medicine Man said that his company, so his consulting company, Medicine Man Technologies, is in Oregon right now helping businesses sort of start up. So that's what I think is going to be, really interesting, is seeing the markets where it first started. So obviously Colorado, and seeing how the cool vape pen.
Thank you.
Does your mother know you do that? I'm just kidding. And then kind of seeing how the people that have really done it first, how they're exporting their knowledge and making money off of it in different states.
Interesting. And then what's going on the science front? I know that kind of testing facilities are coming up. There's gene projects. Is that an area where you're seeing a lot of investment potential?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, until it's really scheduled to Schedule 2, we might not see as much testing as we want, especially making it a legitimate medicine, federally regulated. But we are seeing a huge trend of edibles, and that's kind of coming up on the market. And Canada Supreme Court just said that they're now allowing, edibles and oils to be, federally legal. So I think you're going to see American investors investing in that space too, because Canada so far has only been plant that has been federally legal. So I think that's going to come up.
And then final question, did you get a contact high when you were at the Cannabis Cup?
I don't know. The Cannabis Cup was like, I thought I'd be okay because I'm from Vancouver. So I'm like, oh, every day is a Cannabis Cup in Vancouver, Canada. But the Cannabis Cup scared me straight a little. And for the record, I didn't smoke at all in Denver because I got bronchitis and then pneumonia. So yeah, thanks, Denver. But yeah, it was a lot of dreads, and I felt like a narc. It was weird. I felt weird.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking my questions.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. Jake, thanks a lot, dude. So, Nilo, we've got a tweet that came in from this guy named Anthony. And Anthony wants to know if you think weed is going to be the next big cash crop for the future. Do you see a future of imports and exports for America?
So I don't think you're going to see it in America until it becomes federally legal. The way it is right now is you can't even move it over state lines. Where you are going to see it being exporting is in Canada because it is federally legal. And we know that it's definitely going to come up where they're going to be trading with other countries that also have legal marijuana. So until it is federally legal and rescheduled in the US, you're not going to see it. But when that day comes, I'm sure the market's going to blow up.
Cool. So until that day, let's talk to Magnus. Magnus is in Sweden. Is weed legal in Sweden, Magnus?
Sorry?
Is marijuana legal in Sweden?
It is not. It's still considered a drug in Sweden.
So how readily available is it? Is it difficult to get? Is it just like any other black market, or?
Yeah, I would say it's like any other black market. If you know where to look, you will probably find it all. Everywhere here as well.
Awesome.
Well, hey, anyway, I digress. I bet you have some questions for Nilo, don't you?
I do. My question was actually about the smaller businesses and the smaller growers in Denver right now. Like with the current structure, are they able to stay in business, or is it just for the big corporations in the future?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely seen that the businesses that are doing the most or doing the best in Denver are definitely the larger, large-scale marijuana businesses that have a lot of capital, they have multiple stores and things like that, and have a very recognizable brand, something that sets them apart from the hundreds of other dispensaries in the state and in the city. But I think there's definitely going to be a place for those mom and pop shops in the future.
Okay. Good. And just as in your show, it was about the protection side of things. Is everybody able to afford protection, or is the smaller businesses having to protect them elsewhere than armored trucks and security guards?
Oh yeah, so when you're talking about security, it's mandated by the state. So every state is going to do something a little bit different because it's not federally legal, so it's up to the states to decide what their rules are. So in Colorado, every state has to have a minimum security requirement. So the ones that are able to have it are the ones that have enough money to fund it. It's super capital intensive. We spent a day with a security company just for them to show us what necessary security is has to be in a grow versus a dispensary. And some people are paying up to $1 million in startup costs just for security alone. So you have to have a ton of cash. It's the way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much if you don't have the right backing, it will be hard for you to stay in business. Is that
exactly? Yeah.
Correct assumption?
Exactly. Yeah. You have to trick a suit, or you're out of the business, basically.
Okay, I see. Thank you. That was my question.
Yeah, and I just want to go back to I mentioned a little bit, but I think the place where small, mom and pop grows are going to be is they're going to become kind of the microbrews that we see in beer and the really like fine wine industry. I think that's where mom and pops are going to be, because people are going to want like special reserve marijuana the same way they want special reserve beer and wine. So I think that's where we're going to see them pop up.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking, that maybe we lose with like the CEO from Medicine Man that said that they're only looking for big, fast, and good. And it feels like the smaller growers will probably have a better selection of, well, if people want something specific and not just the fastest growing type of grass.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're going to play to a very like niche market of the somewhat wine snobs of the weed world. They're definitely going to go towards the microbrews and the fine little shops. So it should be interesting to see who's actually going to come up and be really big in that space, because we didn't really meet a company that was doing that.
No, okay. But that's a business plan.
Cool.
Cool.
Right.
Thank you.
Oh, hey, Magnus. Thanks for coming on, man. So, Nilo, we got some more people on Skype. Let's say to Joseph, who's calling us. I actually don't remember where you are, Joseph. Where are you calling us from?
I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Hello. What's happening?
Hey, Nilo, how are you?
I'm
Not
good.
a whole lot. Right on. Hey, thanks for your report. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. What weed problems can I solve for you, sir?
Actually, I was kind of curious, based on the increasing investment, in the marijuana industry. How long before companies like Monsanto get involved in genetically engineering and patenting, strains of marijuana for widespread cultivation and sale?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, to an extent, it's already happening. You have companies that have patented the strains that they have and that have been doing well, and they're kind of creating these consulting companies, and they're going to states that are newly coming on the market and kind of exporting knowledge and things like that. So to a degree, that's already happening, but we don't really have a Monsanto of weed or anything terrifying just yet. But yeah, people are already patenting what they're up to and helping new businesses.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And kind of following up with that, and you mentioned terrifying, and it is, but at the same, or I guess on the flip side, would the potential interests from large companies like Monsanto be kind of maybe perhaps good for the industry? Maybe they could use their lobbying efforts at the federal level to help push forward like marijuana-friendly legislation and things like that.
Yeah, I think that teaming up with big agriculture at the federal level or kind of coming together, I don't think that's really going to happen until marijuana becomes rescheduled, until it becomes federally legal. So I haven't seen Big Ag reach out and say anything about marijuana just yet, but I think that if they're going to kind of combine and join forces, it's going to have to be when marijuana is already federally legal. What we saw, a lot of the growers that we met in Canada and in the States as well, the head growers were often people that used to manipulate tomatoes and alfalfa and different things, and then now they manipulate marijuana. So it's kind of cool. You see that the skills transfer over, but the two industries haven't really combined just yet.
Gotcha. And you just kind of mentioned it. Those couple of guys that from like Montana, I think they grew alfalfa and then they switched to growing pot. As we've seen with corn and ethanol subsidies, basically giving economic incentive for farmers, especially on the large scale, to divert more of their land to corn and other cash crops, if you will, at this point. Do you see in states where growing is legal that happening on a widespread level, diverting of farmland from other crops to marijuana?
No, I don't really see that happening. One, because agriculture is having its own issues. If we're talking about right now, agriculture is having its own issues right now with the drought and having enough water for its own resources. So I think they're kind of locked in their own battle. But then also, most marijuana grows are indoor. So you don't necessarily need to be, in a place with a certain amount of rainfall or things like that. This can really be grown anywhere with the right technology. So you don't necessarily need any kind of land. So I don't think you're going to divert it from agriculture to marijuana.
Right on. And then finally, we touched on big ag. What about like big pharma? Have you seen or heard anything in terms of them like mobilizing to, because there's basically a prescription drug out there that's out of their hands at this point. So like Merck, Pfizer, Bayer, have any of them has there been a groundswell for them to get involved in the market?
No, and again, it's because marijuana is still Schedule 1. So the way it's scheduled, the federal government says it doesn't have any medicinal applications. If it gets rescheduled to Schedule 2, it'll go through testing, go through FDA approval, and then that is maybe where you might see Big Pharma talking to them, but at the same time, they probably won't. And the reason is because there's no patent for marijuana, right? It's a plant, it's already out there. The same way that there's, Big Pharma probably won't profit off if MDMA or LSD becomes legal for drug-assisted psychotherapy because the patent's already there. So they can't really make money out of it in the same way that they, create Vicodin and these other drugs. So probably not.
Right on. Well, hey, that's
Don't
good news to
quote
my
me
ears.
on it.
That's okay. Hey, listen, I appreciate it. That's all I had for you. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Joseph.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, what's up?
Hi. Do we want to have some fun and show the clip of the 2 alfalfa growers at the Cannabis Cup?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could do that. Why don't we take a look at that?
Cool.
After 40 years of cannabis commentary, High Times has stepped off the sidelines with a multi-million-dollar growth fund to invest directly in marijuana-related businesses.
These are the guys from Elemental Seeds, Tony and Jason. I discovered these guys, Dan Sky did, all right, in Montana. They're a couple farmers, wheat and alfalfa farmers in Montana. These guys are master growers.
Would you want to go back to farming alfalfa, or are you set with marijuana like that? Cannabis is it?
I think cannabis is it, I mean, there's no medicinal benefits in alfalfa.
Yeah, so I mean, these guys were obviously a lot happier in pot fields than they were in alfalfa fields. And as well, the head grower at Organogram in Moncton, he also was a tomato grower and is now the head grower at Organogram in Canada. So you see people transferring over, and it's people in these industries that are like biotech and ag and are now near marijuana. So that was kind of cool to see.
So people are happier growing pot than they are alfalfa?
It's just a plant, Michael. I don't know what to tell you. It's just a plant.
I wonder why. I mean, that's really strange to me. But,
Yeah.
we were just talking about big industry, and we got this tweet that I want you to take a look at. It's from Lamar Despoder. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And Lamar wants to know, if prohibition is lifted, do you think the tobacco conglomerates will have a say in how cannabis is regulated and distributed?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I think that marijuana might compete with tobacco. I think a lot of marijuana and tobacco users, I think there's a little crossover in that Venn diagram of who uses what. But they might. I mean, if they can see a way to profit off of it, I don't see why not. I mean, money is money.
I mean, money is money, and
money is green, Michael.
And so is marijuana.
Yes,
and
it is.
Courtney's not green though, but she's on Skype. Let's say it to her.
It's a weird segue. Hi, Courtney.
Hello. Thanks for having me. My first question is related to kind of the on-the-ground social consequences of the change of the law, because I think it's interesting that we hear numbers that so much money has been pumped into the education system and all these positive things. And so I wonder, just from someone not in Colorado, how the feel is actually on the ground. Is there pushback from people who are conservative in Colorado? Or, what is the reason why more Coloradans aren't saying, hey, this is working for us and everybody should be doing this?
Yeah, I mean, the people that we talked to, it doesn't seem like there is a lot of opposition anymore. And I think that you're seeing that, all the taxation from the marijuana industry and where the tax is going to schools and other public entities. So that's been great. I don't know why Colorado is more, liberal than other states. But it's been cool to see people really getting on board in that state.
Yeah. So kind of going along that vein with this idea of kind of like it being a stigma, I wonder if any of the dispensaries are thinking about partnerships with, off the top of my head, I'm thinking like the NFL or professional athletics, because, they've traditionally been, especially the NFL, pretty conservative about their drug rules, but they've had pretty negative press recently. So, just are they thinking strategically about who they should be partnering with whenever maybe the federal laws do change, and because there's a lot of money possibly to be made?
Yeah, I mean, that's not something we necessarily approach people with, but I'm sure that they are doing things that are off the record and they didn't want to tell us who they're partnering with just yet. But yeah, definitely. I mean, anything that's going to increase their brand and visibility, because you go to Denver and there's more dispensaries and coffee shops, so you have to differentiate yourself somehow. So I'm sure they're going to do that just so that they can kind of elevate their brand.
Yeah, and along those lines, do you see it becoming kind of just like a traditional American industry at any point when the laws do change, as far as like advertising goes? Will people see commercials and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it'll probably be a traditional business if we can get it rescheduled, if we can change the tax laws, have access to banking. I think it'll function just like any other business. But I don't know, I've never actually thought about marijuana ads, but I think they would be awesome. And I think they would definitely not run on prime time at all. I think they would run like liquor ads and other ads that only run with certain brands, for example. But yeah, it's gonna take a huge overhaul. It's gotta happen at the federal level, and states like California, where it's this really confusing, weird mess and gray area of what you can do and what you can't do, that needs to be sorted, because until there's a black and white of what's legal and what's not, investors aren't going to want to invest in anything directly in the plant.
Totally, yeah. And so you mentioned earlier too that unless you have a lot of money to invest, it's really hard to get into this. So the question in my mind is there any avenue for people who were selling on the black market before, who may have like a untraditional expertise, to get involved maybe as growers or things like that? Are those the people who are doing those jobs?
Yeah, I mean, as long as you don't have a record, absolutely those people are doing those jobs. I mean, when we talked to Andy Williams of Medicine Man, his brother was growing weed in their basement, and under like the Compassion Act, where he could for so many people, under the medical laws. But yeah, those people, they had to learn somehow, right? And there's always been a black market or like a weird gray medical market. So yes, those people are involved. But again, if you have had any kinds of charges on your record, a lot of the state regulations stipulate that you can't get involved if you have these possession charges. So it makes it difficult.
Gotcha. Oh, I didn't think about that, but that makes sense. I just have one more question. It's about hemp. When you were down there, did you come across any conversations about growing hemp kind of in an industrialized way to replace, cotton, or for textiles, or, nutrition supplements or things like that?
Yeah, that's something that we heard a lot from the vendors. So at the Cannabis Cup, it wasn't just a giant pot party, which it kind of was, but then there was also all these vendors and booths of different people kind of promoting their product. And there were a few hemp booths and people that we talked to. So yeah, that's definitely a big market that we might see.
Cool, thank you for doing this. It's a cool documentary.
Thanks, I had 10 years of research, so I was ready to go. Cool. It's not uncomfortable at all. Hey, Michael.
10 years of research. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like a long pre-production process.
I'm committed, Michael. I don't know what to tell you.
There you go. Immersive journalism. So, Nilo, I think we've reached the end of our show. Why don't we say goodbye to the people at home?
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for tuning in on the internet to learn about marijuana. If you have any other questions, you can hit me up on Twitter at Tabrizy or at Vice News.
So this is the Green Mile.
It's very green.
It's very green. So these are some of our mother plants. This is what we use to create new plants. And so when we look for genetics, we look for good, big, and fast. Those three things. And when we find it, we grow a big plant, and then we clone it, and we'll plant it. And it will be an exact genetic duplicate of this plant. Let's go stand. Let me make a little more room here.
This is so exciting.
Go back in there a little bit.
This is what it's like to be a marijuana plant?
That's right. Now all this green is reflecting from you.